I've seen lots of confusion on Metaplanet's new ADR with the ticker MPJPY, and I just want to help clarify any of that confusion. For anyone who doesn't know, you can buy Metaplanet through over the counter with ticker MTPLF, and as of recently, you can now use an ADR to purchase Metaplanet through ticker MPJPY. And in today's video, I just want to explain the differences as well as help conceptualize why there may be any price differences between the two tickers. Without further ado, let's get started. First of all, what is an ADR? An ADR just stands for an American Depository Receipt, in which a depository bank buys shares of a foreign company. In this case, it's Deutsche Bank. And then that company then issues ADRs, American Depository Receipts, which represents a set number of shares. Metaplanet has disclosed that one ADR is equivalent of one share. So every ADR that is issued just represents one share of Metaplanet that gets issued. And this is useful because it helps simplify settlement. There's no need to convert currencies, and it can be cleared through US systems rather than the OTC over the counter. So when you go to buy Metaplanet, whether it's over the counter through ticker MTPLF or through their ADR through ticker MPJPY, you're still getting the same shares of Metaplanet. There's just a few minor differences, mainly fees and accessibility. So if you buy Metaplanet over the counter through ticker MTPLF, you'll typically just see a one-time buy and a one-time sell fee. That fee may vary based on the broker that you use. Whereas with MPJPY, if you were to buy Metaplanet through the ADR, there's the potential for recurring fees, has a maximum of 5 cents per ADR or 5 cents per share per year. And there are differences between the accessibility of MTPLF and MPJPY. Buying Metaplanet over the counter with ticker MTPLF is going to be less accessible because less brokers allow over the counter trading, and it's less available for institutional buyers as well. Whereas buying through MPJPY is going to be more accessible for both retail and institutional investors. However, just because you're buying MTPLF and it's less accessible, it doesn't mean you're getting anything different. You're still getting the same shares of the same company when you buy MTPLF and when you buy MPJPY. There may be some differences in price between MTPLF and MPJPY, but I'd say the best way to kind of conceptualize that price difference is thinking of it as buying the same product at a different store. In this case, I'm going to use the example of buying ground beef at different stores. If you've seen my ground beef video, you already know why I'm bullish on ground beef. But if you haven't, I'll give you a very brief rundown. Basically, with ground beef and beef or cattle products in general, we see a unique scenario in which the price of ground beef is going up, and as the price of ground beef goes up, people are less able to afford ground beef, so then consumer demand shifts away from the expensive ground beef and towards less expensive foods. But since farmers have a limited amount of land, they can't just keep the same supply of cattle. They have to shift their supply to meet the consumer demand. So then they lower their supply of cattle to increase their supply of those cheaper agricultural products to meet that consumer demand of the cheaper food. So then there's a smaller supply of cattle, which thus creates basically a supply shock, further increasing these price of ground beef, creating a cycle that just continuously increases the price of ground beef and lowers the supply of cattle and beef products. If you'd like a deeper dive into my thesis on ground beef, I'll link that video in the description. But the point is, I think that ground beef is going up in value, just as I believe that Metaplanet is going up in value. And we could compare buying ground beef at one store versus another to buying Metaplanet through MTPLF versus MPJPY. So say we go to Walmart and we could buy one brand of ground beef for $7 a pound, And we could also go to a Target and that same brand of ground beef, maybe that costs $7.20 per pound. And there might be some different reasons for that price discrepancy. Say Target has easier access for foot traffic, it's easier for people to get to. Or maybe Target just is more convenient for people to buy that ground beef at. Maybe they just have more products that people want, so they're willing to pay a little bit of a premium because it's more convenient to buy the ground beef there than the $7 ground beef at Walmart. So there are some reasons for that price discrepancy. However, it is the same exact product, and even if ground beef goes up in value, I would expect that ground beef at Walmart versus ground beef at Target, the value of that ground beef to grow relatively proportionally to each other. Similarly, MTPLF and MPJPY, they're the same product. They're both Metaplanet shares of Metaplanet. There may be some slight discrepancies in the price, and those price discrepancies may be explained by things based on people's preferences for the fee structure, or based on preferences for accessibility or brokers. Maybe some people don't have a broker that has over-the-counter trading, so they're just going to buy MPJPY because it's more convenient for them, just like it might be more convenient for people to buy ground beef at Target. So it's buying the same product just at a different store. Now, I could see MPJPY having a potential perpetual premium over MTPLF, especially if they're able to get a NASDAQ uplisting, which could unlock options trading. Now, MTPLF and MPJPY, they would still be the same product. They would still be shares of Metaplanet. However, if MPJPY can unlock options trading, it may add like an additional utility value to the ticker, which could give this perpetual premium to MPJPY. However, I would still expect that even while MPJPY has that premium, it would still go up in proportion to MTPLF. Now, for going back to our ground beef example at Target and Walmart, I'd say a good example of this would be like a rewards program. So say Target now offers a rewards program for their ground beef. So every pound of ground beef earns you 10 points that can be redeemed for future discounts. Now, depending on how many people want the things that are being discounted or want those points, or how valuable those discounts are, people may be willing to pay a slight greater premium for the ground beef at Target compared to Walmart for those points. Similarly, if MPJPY allows for options trading, depending on if you want to trade options or how good the premiums are for the options, you may be willing to pay a premium on MPJPY as opposed to MTPLF, just so that you're able to trade options on the stock. So going back to the Target example, if Target started offering a rewards program on their ground beef, it may help to get their ground beef to start trading at a premium. But over time, as ground beef goes up in value, the price of ground beef at Walmart and Target will go up relatively in proportion to each other. So going back to Metaplanet with MTPLF, let's say this hand right here is MTPLF. This hand right here is MPJPY's price. Say MPJPY gets uplisted and allows for options trading. Maybe at that point there's a little bit of a premium added to MPJPY and it jumps from here to here. And then from that point on, I think they'll just kind of grow in proportion to each other. So there won't be a significant price difference. Maybe if you sell your MTPLF or MPJPY right before that premium increase, you might be able to capture a little tiny spread. But the big picture things are going to go up about the same. So personally, I am hodling my Metaplanet shares with ticker MTPLF. That's what I originally bought them through. And I don't think converting them to MPJPY makes a whole lot of sense for my case. I feel like that would be very similar to buying $7 ground beef at Walmart. and then freaking out because a Target opened up selling the exact same ground beef for $7.20, but it's more convenient for people to get that ground beef at Target. So then for some reason, I should freak out and think that my ground beef is going to lose all of its value. So I should sell my ground beef back to Walmart to go to Target and buy the same ground beef. I feel like that's a little bit irrational. I don't think there's going to be a very significant price difference or price growth between the two tickers, as some people may make it out to seem. But I will be adding through MPJPY. I do have a good amount of Metaplanet at this point, but I feel like the fee structure of MPJPY might just be a little bit more beneficial for me to DCA through at this point. That's what I'm doing. My name's Aiden Gillespie. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to support my work.